haven't built a Minecraft Java Edition in years, so today I'm going to be using Axiom in my builds for the first time. I have some prior experience messing around with Axiom, but I've never built with it before, so we'll see how that goes. This is what I'll be building, but I can't show that yet. So here's the reference photo I'll be using. This is from the movie Ponyo, so it looks nice. Sadly, I couldn't do the boat this time around, but maybe I'll get to that another day. Either way, let's get started. First thing I wanted to do was mainly find a, nice hill biome, a good little grassy area near the coast. This would allow me to make it look like the image the best. Then, start to do some road work, make sure I make that look good. We have the garage little pathway, not really a garage, but like a car cover area. So that's where the car comes in and parks. And then after that, that's where I start building the terrain under the house to support, everything that's there. After that, I wanted to focus on the entrance and the pathway up to the door. I just wanted to test out different variations and where everything would go so I could get a sense of where to put the house, and that way it wouldn't be off-centered or in a weird position. Then I started to test out some roof shapes. Some stuck, some didn't, but overall I just wanted to see how I would start it. And then I moved on to the balcony and the front of the house. I definitely wanted to experiment with the roof a bit because adding a support under the extruding part of the roof definitely looks really nice, but getting the exact block that you want is really hard. So I was just gonna leave it as how I did it and hope for the best later on. For the white terracotta, I didn't really care for that block palette with the mangrove stairs, so I started testing out other blocks like birch strip logs, and I think it looked better with it, so I just decided to gun it and just change everything else to birch strip logs. Later, I would definitely add a gradient just for the detail, but for now, that's just what the block is and what I decided the main block should be. At this point, I wanted to focus on the other perspectives of the house just to make sure everything looked accurate as possible. So I went to go look at my other photos and just compare everything, made sure the size was right, and just overall the dimensions matched decently. These windows on the side were pretty fun. I was just playing around with them, seeing what shapes worked with how big the house was. I didn't focus too much on the interior as I'm not much of an interior person, and overall I think I just wanted the frame of the photo that I chose in the top left. After I was done with the base of the house, I wanted to work on other elements around the house, like the garage or the car cover, I guess. So I started to finish that up, and then I worked on the roof of the house, making sure everything looked nice and supported. Added some pipes around, more like a drain gutter, and then some other levers to add some detail that I couldn't get with other blocks. After that, I wanted to focus on the terrain on the side so I could fit everything like the picket fence and the shack. So I started to finish that up. Using the Axiom debug hand, I was able to make the fences connect with the walls, which is really nice. After that, I focused on the car under the car tent, which was pretty decent, and it was limiting due to the shape of the car and the space I had, but I think I did a pretty good job at capturing what the car is supposed to look like. After that, I started to work on the gradient. I think it was pretty decent. I chose a dark to light, so the shadows were at the bottom. It was a stripped birch log, birch plank, sandstone, and smooth sandstone. So those are the 4 blocks I chose for that gradient if you guys want to use it. And then I finished up the roofs and then started working on the rest of the street. After that, the terrain was my next goal, just overall getting that look that's in the photo to make sure it's as accurate as possible. As I extended the road down, I went to go check the perspective that I wanted, and sometimes it looked off, sometimes it looked on, so you'll see me adjust the road a lot and adjust the terrain in general because a lot of it doesn't match exactly how I wanted it to be, but that's what comes with Minecraft. You mess with the terrain, you make it look how you want to look. After that, I added the little electric tower pole, which honestly, I don't know why that's even there in the photo. There's not even a line, but it looks nice. After that, I wanted to work on the terrain on the opposite side of the road. In order for everything to look like the image, I just added some moss and some variation to the terrain. Then I wanted to work on the shape of the terrain on the opposite side so it looked natural as possible. and then I added the guardrail to add the finishing touches to the road. After that, I started exploding the terrain, yes, exploding it, because I did not know how to use Axiom before this build. So I started testing it right after just to see how it started, because I realized how uneducated I was on Axiom. I built up the logs for the height I wanted for the build, and then I just started building a decently bad tree. I love building trees, but I suck at them, so I tried my best on this. And in a few moments, you'll see me copy and paste a tree, but don't worry, I will make it different and add variations to it, as you can see. Now, like I said earlier, I wasn't the best tree builder, so if it does look off at some points, that is my fault. I take full responsibility for that, but, you know, please bear with me. I try my best with these builds. So after that, I had to paste the trees in where I wanted them, and I filled up the little valley that was on the edge of the road. That way it looked, you know, like the photo. After that, I wanted to fill in the ugly parts of the mountain with more terrain, and then copy and paste yet another one of my decent, alright looking trees into the back of the house. That way it can finish off the background, and obviously I do the finishing touches to add a little bit of variation to this tree as well. Now at this point in the build, I'm not the best at Axiom still, but I do know enough to move a mountain. So I start moving my mountain and giving myself enough room to build the silo that's in the background of the house. So if you can see that white silo, that is what platform I'm trying to build for this part. And overall, I didn't know how it looked like from the side, so I just decided to wing it and just start building a bunch of terrain and praying for the best look. After I had the platform for the silo situated, I used the Axiom cylinder tool and made it look as best as possible. I added oak trap doors in order for it to make it look a little aged, that way it looks accurate to the photo as well. And then I kind of messed with the sign. I didn't like how it looked, so I would come back to that later. And I finally get to move the car to the correct position because I thought it was a good time for that. Next, I wanted a gradient for my silo, so I used the pale oak logs, the stripped ones, with the calcite and some normal diorite. I end up replacing the polished diorite because the texture difference, so that way this looks more gradual in the gradient. Then I started to mess with the framing of the windows, that way I can get the best look possible. So I just started to mess around with that to see how it changed the look of the house. Once I was done doing all the frames, I started to edit the picket fence a little bit, and I thought using the fenced gates would look better with the kind of U shape that it would have. So from afar, it looks nice, and I used skulls for the top of the walls in order to have that little extra height. After that, I really wanted to focus on the terrain on the left side in order to really get that distance feeling from the perspective I wanted to choose. So as you can see, I'm adding the foreground of the trees so that way I can see where the image is and how I want it to be placed. You can see me mess around with the placement a little bit and the shape of the trees, so over time you'll see that change. And now that y'all know I'm not the best tree builder, you can see what I mean by that. I'm just placing leaves in a bunch and adding a trunk. So if that's what you call a tree, I guess I can say my trees are decent, but this is as good as they get. Now that the trees are finally in place, I start to add in the trunks. That way I kind of know where I'm supposed to be building, and just overall finalizing everything around it so I don't have to worry about it later. Now that I'm done with that area, I'm moving to the right of the house to touch up some terrain that I left from when I moved the mountain earlier. So right here, you can see me just smoothing things out and trying to understand the layout of the photo, because you can see up here that the road kind of bends off to the right. So that's kind of what I'm trying to build here. And the angle is kind of off, so it's hard to tell what exactly is going on. So overall, I'm just trying my best to see how you would drive up to the silo and, you know, the best route I can take for the perspective that I chose. With the rest of the terrain, you'll see me just doing touch-ups kind of based off intuition. And this is honestly the best workaround to not having a certain photo or angle for something. Just try to use your own creativity and fill in the blanks of what would be there. Now in a sec, you'll start seeing me go crazy with the Axiom Dissolve tool. It was my first time using it, and the cliffs looked pretty natural with it, so I decided to, abuse the tool a little bit and get me some of that shape that I wanted from the photo. So as you can see, that cliffside right there, I was able to make this huge valley all the way down to where the boat would be later. And I think I will do a separate video on the boat. I do like building boats a lot, and especially an old like Steam class one like that I've never really built, so I think that would really be fun. Now you can see me floating there to the left. I think I was just in Axiom hovering to test out replace tools. So right here I wanted to add bushes and other whatever greenery I can add to the mountainside to really sell that foresty hill vibe. So I started to paste around some blotches of bushes, and I wanted to really flush out the rest of the build. Once I was done with that, I moved on to the left side terrain, and I overall just wanted to finish the rest of the side up just to have it as smooth as possible and just to make it as near accurate as possible as well. I added the small little tree behind the shack, which is not as noticeable in the photo, but it is there. At this point, I'm just adding and finishing up the road just so I can have the right perspective and the length of the road. Like I said earlier, the road is going to be really janky because of the way it's shaped, so I'm going to be moving it around a lot and adjusting it. Now after I checked the perspective a couple times, I obviously noticed the road is bugging me again. So I start to change some of it, fix up some of the curvature, and make it look right. Now we finally get back to the sign where I was struggling so bad. And I think this is my V2, which was a perspective based one, but that one didn't go nearly as well as even the first one. I like the first one more than the second one, but I'll be coming back to that later. Now I am fixing up the roof to make it look more flat. As you can see, I've been noticing that throughout the video, and when I was just chilling, I just didn't like the shape of the roof, so I decided to change it a little bit. And I did choose a pretty basic support for the bottom, and I could have stuck with one of those fence designs, but I think this works well with the distance that I chose because I need it to be a little thicker, that way it's more pronounced in the photo. Now I did start to notice that some of the areas were looking a bit bare, so obviously I added a little bit of greenery, added some more trees to the side along with the distance of the road to match. That way it just looks a little neater. And then I get to mess with the sign again. So now that we're back to the sign, I finally come up with the simplest design ever. And I was so mad it took me this long. It was just 3 blocks, some slabs, and some trapdoors. I mean, it wasn't hard at all, and I finally did it. It looks decent, I like the shape, and it just looks really nice to me. Right here I try to add the overhang of the kind of moss grass looking stuff in the photo, but I couldn't really get it right, so I just decided to add vines and call it a day. Then I did some more touch-ups with the mountainside to make sure the cliffs look as lined up as possible with the photo, thickening the road, making sure that the car would be able to fit, and then overall just doing more touch-ups inside the terrain. That way it looks as smooth as I can get it. After these small touch-ups, I wanted to double back and go check if everything looked okay from other angles. So had to check the front of the house, fix a few parts of that, go back to the area where I moved the mountain and touch up the terrain there too. Then I'm gonna be going around and just overall fixing the larger areas I left. That way it can all look like one full build rather than something I just put here. Now you can see me start to use the extrude tool a bit here just to connect the parts that looked kind of off. And then after that, I am still going in by hand and trying to patch up any parts that I didn't like. That way it still keeps a natural feel whenever I'm building. And then you'll see me start to paste in some trees because I honestly needed to add more greenery around here. Sure, there's a lot of moss blocks, but the leaves do help with the texture, and it just makes it look a lot better from the angle that we look at. Now you can see I'm going back in with the dissolve tool, making this valley a little steeper, and you know, there'll be something I'll do later in this video that is pretty drastic to the area around it, but I think it looks really good for how it ends off. Right here, just touching up some more small hills, nothing crazy. And overall, I think I'm just trying to make the area fit with the build, which is a very crucial part if you want to make everything look and feel natural. Now you're going to see me start to mess with the valley a bit here, just trying to see what looks right from the perspective I want. And I'm just testing stuff out. Nothing's really fully permanent, but I think that this is a good start to what I am about to do. Now, if you turn your attention to this beast of a mountain, it is now gone. And this took me a minute because, like I said, I was new to Axiom, so I was just testing out the erase tool and just kind of going in to delete a lot of the terrain. And you'll see it, most of the mountain will be gone by the end of this. And I think I did a pretty good job at integrating the shore, at least as best as I could for the time I spent on it. I'm not really too fond of messing with terrain like this, but in order to get the angle I wanted, I think this was like the best option. And especially for later, if I do want to end up doing the boat, I think it's good to clear out this mountain now rather than later, so I don't have as much terraforming to deal with when I'm just building a boat in the ocean. So I think that'll be nice for later as well. Now, as you can see, after a good little bit of time, I managed to make this little kind of peninsula bay looking area, which honestly didn't take too long. I was just trying to get the mountain out the way and then flush out the terrain so it didn't look too weird. Now we're going to be working on the house again, and this time I'm going to be focusing on the frames a bit. But as you can see, instead of the banners, I didn't like how they disappeared at a distance, and same with the signs, so I got rid of them and I replaced them with some other blocks that kind of resemble the same shape. That way from afar you can see the smaller details. I left the skulls even though they'd also disappear, but I think that's just good for the detail when you're up close. When you're far, the picket fence isn't nearly as noticeable. And after this shading and some more terrain bits, we will be nearing the end of the video. So I just wanted to say thank you to anyone still here and watching. And you know, please drop a little like, a little subscribe if you guys feel like it, and just comment anything that you want me to do in the future content wise. I'm not really too picky with games, but I do really like Minecraft building, so if you guys have any ideas that you want to see, let me know, and thank you guys for watching.